light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Very nice. So can we, well, let's see. Joke. We need to be in a good mood with this happy table over here, so Joni's going to lead us with a joke. Joke of the day. Yeah, already. This is my guilt conscience for forgetting her the last 2 times.
So as punishment, I have more than a joke. Oh no! Whoops, I forgot the joke. Anyway, I'll get it in a minute. So we've had this 100-year storm come through, and I got this thing the other day, 100 years ago. So the year is 1922, 100 years ago. What difference a century makes? The average life expectancy was 47 years. Fuel for cars, are you ready, was sold in drugstores only. Maximum speed limit in most cities was 10 miles an hour. 14% of the homes had a bathtub. Most women wash their hair once a month and use borax or Aid shampoo. That would explain the 100 brush strokes. And you notice they don't tell you how often men did. Okay. 8% of the homes had a telephone. The American flag had 48 stars. Tallest structure in the world was the Eiffel Tower. Population of Las Vegas, Nevada was only 30. Crossword puzzles, canned beer, and iced tea hadn't been invented yet. There was neither a Mother's Day nor a Father's Day. 2 out of 10 area adults could not read or write. Are you ready for this next one? Only 6% of all Americans had graduated from high school.
Is this a joke?
No, high school. These were immigrants, remember. They were coming from, these were laborers, these were tradesmen. Marijuana, heroin, morphine were available over the counter at local drugstores. Back then, pharmacists said, heroin clears the complexion. I bet you hear this next one. Gives buoyancy to the mind and regulates the stomach. Canada passed a law prohibiting poor people from entering the country for any reason. 5 leading causes of death were pneumonia and influenza, tuberculosis, diarrhea, heart disease, and stroke. There were about 230 reported murders in the entire USA. More than 95% of all births took place at home. More than 95% of all doctors had no college education. Instead, they attended so-called medical schools, many of which were condemned in the press and by the government as substandard. Sugar costs 4 cents a pound, eggs 14 cents a dozen, coffee 15 cents a pound. Average U.S. wage in 1922 was 22 cents per hour. Average worker earned $200 to $400 a year. A competent accountant could expect to earn $2,000 a year, a dentist $2,500, veterinarian between $15,000 and $4,000 a year, mechanical engineer about $5,000 a year. They left this out, this next one, so I looked it up. President of the United States earned $75,000 per year. That was the equivalent to something over $1 million in today's dollars. 18% of households had at least one full-time servant or domestic help. And most importantly, my mother was 1 year old.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Joan. Connie's still busy at the desk, but I'm going to ask her to tell us how much money we have in the treasury.
Hi guys. $2,587.72, and $650 of that is donated, or what's the word, guys? I'm looking for. It's for tickets. It's designated. I said donated. It's designated for ticket sales. So about $2,000 we have. So any questions? Be sure and call Simon.
What about the event?
We broke even. We broke even.
So far.
Broke even. Yeah.
Has everybody contributed? We need to ask for money. We're here. Is it sold out?
There you go, honey.
Is it
I
sold
don't know
out?
if all of you are aware that we're having Star Parker, who's a nationally recognized journalist, come to Indian River County. She is big time. She happens to be a black woman who was in the depths of pitiful life, and she brought herself around. She was addicted to alcohol and drugs, and she brought herself around, and she has now become a pro-life advocate. We really need to support this woman. This is October 13th here in Indian River County. If you have not made a contribution, because this is very expensive to have a human being like this come into our city. So everybody needs to make a contribution and pass it on to your friends as well. Thank you.
Is it sold out, Connie?
Now see, I knew she would do a much better job than I would ever do. So,
Connie,
Yes.
is it sold out?
no, we're not sold out.
Not by any means.
Yeah, not even close. And when I said we've broken even, everyone that said that they would donate has donated. I've gotten, I would say, close to 10 donations that did not make a commitment. But we're $48 in the black for the Star Parker event.
How many tickets have we sold?
We've sold, I would say, maybe 100.
Ray seats 500.
Yeah.
Have we
So
contacted?
more than anything, we need you to contact all of your friends, your neighbors, a few of your enemies as well.
They need to be there.
I knew Rosemary was going to pick up on that. I didn't have to. So she does all my dirty work for me. That's why I love her. But yeah, we just need to market it,
Connie,
and
sorry.
get the place filled up if we can. Yes.
Have we contacted all the churches? Because I didn't see anything in my bulletin at my church.
Yes. We've said a lot of the churches have
Okay.
the flyers, but you need to talk about it at your church. Yes.
That I saw did not mention who was sponsoring it or who it was to benefit.
Let's say you're going to have to talk to somebody with more pull than I have about that. Who made that decision?
What was the question?
There you go, Paul.
Okay, I don't know that I made a decision. I think we did it as a group. There'll be Democrats and Republicans at this particular event, so we left the political connotations out of it in order to attract more people. There's, the predominance of attendance will be Republicans, without a doubt. But in order to attract some of the youthful people and some of those that maybe are on the borderline of their dependency on Republican, Democrat, NPAs, we left that Republican thing out of it. Just it's an evening with Star Parker. So that's what we're doing, and Republicans for Life is sponsoring it, and we're putting all the work and the money into it. So there's the nitty gritty of what happened. Okay, so I appreciate your input, both ladies. We're going to put on the 40 Days for Life. He is a local leader, and his name is Mr. Vince Rahal. Sorry, Mr. Ray Hall, come on up. We need people to sign up for 40 Days for Life, right, Vince?
Yes. Thank you, Paul. As you said, my name is Vince Rahal. I'm the local leader for 40 Days for Life. I inherited it from Marge's daughter, and Paul, right? I think Bernie. I'm sorry, Bernie. I'm terrible. I'm good with faces, horrible with names. But anyway, this is the second year that I've been doing this. We started 40 Day for Life actually 2 days ago. Wednesday was the kickoff. I assume most of you are probably familiar with it, but if not, it's a 40-day period. Again, goes from, this is what they call a fall campaign. They do 2 campaigns a year. The fall campaign started September 28th and goes to November 6th. The idea is to get individuals out there to, on a daily basis, we try to cover from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, and just come out there and pray for the end of abortion, and pray for the unborn babies, their mothers, the fathers, whoever's bringing them there. Pray for the abortionists. We're there to save. We're hopefully there to save souls and to save lives. And so, back, I'm going to give a little history. Catherine Booth has given me a little bit of background information on the 40 Day for Life history. Sorry, I got to open my phone up again. So it started back in 2008 by a young couple who brought Abby Johnson. I think all of you have heard about Abby Johnson. Brought her out of the abortion industry, and the movie Unplanned is a great movie if you haven't seen it about that. So what we're doing is we're taking sign-ups here, and if you can devote an hour, whatever you can devote on a specific day. The churches around here in this area and also in St. Lucie County have kind of taken a day and tried to get people from their parishes or their churches out there to pray. So and we have people that cross boundaries. Some people will do it I do it on Catherine's Day, with the Protestants. I'm a Catholic. So if you can't make it on the day your church is involved in it, whatever day, it doesn't matter. And if you can only do it once in the 40-day period, that's fine. If you can do it more so, that's great. I'll be at the table, Catherine may, but I'll be at the table afterwards for anybody that's interested in signing up and getting information about it.
They can sign up with me.
March. So, St. John of the Cross. So the various churches have people that do it, and some churches don't. You can also go online, the 40 Day for Life and the local campaign. It's a Fort Pierce campaign. And so we just thank you for the opportunity to speak, and and for the blessings of all of you that the Lord gives for taking those unborn babies.
Thank you. So we're going to hear from Miss Susan Baldwin for the butterfly release and from Respect Life. Come on up, Susie.
Hi. Every year, St. Helens Respect Life Ministry sponsors a butterfly release for stillborn, aborted, or miscarried babies. And we've been doing this now. This will be our 5th year. And it started out as a fundraiser. That was the idea for a fundraiser, but I can tell you in these subsequent years, it has become so much more. It is an incredible source of closure and healing for families. And it's very simple. I mean, we have a simple ceremony with music, and then everybody releases the butterflies. They don't fly off most of them tend to hit the ground because they just woke up, and they kind of need their own time to kind of get their bearings before they fly away. But it is a wonderful, and it's going to take place this year on October 23rd after our 12:15 Mass, so say about 1:30 or so. And we still have butterflies to sell. They are $10 for one, $15 for two, and $20 for three. And you give us the names that you want us, the names of these babies, and or whatever you want to put on the form. And I have forms over there if you're interested. The address of St. Helens Parish Office is there. You can mail them in. If you want to give me anything at the end of today, I'll be more than happy to hang around for a little while. We also accept donations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan.
I just say one more thing I forgot? If you don't mind, I'll just skip. Thank you. We always try to set up a little kickoff campaign for the 40 Day for Life, and this year it was trying to get our local priests there, and it did kind of fall apart, and so we didn't set it up. And now I got a call this morning from him and says he's going to send a priest there tomorrow at 10 to the abortion mill on a Woman's World in Fort Pierce. So we're going to have a kind of an informal kickoff. If anybody is around and would like to attend, it's going to be simple, just some prayer, and and I'll have a little table set up with some items like Catherine has here. So thank you. 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock.
Okay, just one word about Star Parker. We've purposely kept this price at $10 for students and $20 for adults. It's an unheard of price for a person of this stature, Star Parker. And we're hoping to break even, but we want to fill up the seats. So I have a couple of extra tickets aside, so if anybody's connected to any of the young adult youth group who simply can't afford to come, my experience has been if someone has paid for something, they're more likely to come. But if you have that situation in your clinic, in your care center, where you have young women who are really are desperate for support, we have tickets set aside for them. So anybody working with youth groups, let me know. Let me know how many tickets you need, because I have them. Okay. Good.
Paul, it sounds to me like the specific sponsor opportunities are covered. So would it be helpful that rather than a sponsorship, people buy tickets and arrange either through you or maybe other pastors, and I think that's what you're alluding to distribute tickets that way, so that we focus on filling the seats and be focused on getting the tickets and the tickets out.
Yes, in fact, I've been in contact with my pastor at my church, but that'd be a great conduit to this, to give them to your pastor at church and say, here, these are for those people who need them, and even if they can't pay for them, we prefer that they do, but if they can't, we have so many tickets set aside. So let me know your pastors or your connections with them. I'm here all afternoon, not all afternoon, for 2 hours, and I'll allot you so many tickets for that, and give them to your pastors and have them make an announcement at their church or the youth group. I think St. Helens has done that. I have to keep following up because the priest has a lot on his table, but we got to keep the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So the more you talk about it, the more people will come, and particularly with the young youth who need to hear this lady. She's an unbelievable story.
Paul, I would probably look at reaching out to Oceans Unite. You seem to have a lot of young people attending that church. Then there's a good portion of church around here. I noticed they don't have a lot of people around my age. I'm 24 for reference that attend, but I've noticed Oceans Unite, they have a lot of those people there. That might be a church to reach out to.
Okay, Oceans Unite, anybody remember Oceans Unite?
Yeah, the mall.
Okay, I'll give you some tickets for the youth.
Calvary Chapel would be good.
Calvary too? Okay. Yeah, we prefer they pay for it. If they can't, we have them for them anyway, okay?
I can take some.
All right, very good. All right, so I'll give you a quick rundown here on juggling the schedule for today. We had scheduled Kimberly Bird, and she was the Vice President of External Operations for Lila Rose and Live Action. So she's one of the foremost in the country on pro-life. She is a big advocate, and she raises a lot of money through her Live Action charity site, I guess it is. If you Google it, you'll see it, and Lila Rose will come up. So she's a big-time person for pro-life with Lila Rose. But she was a victim of the hurricane, and she lives in Tampa, so she wanted to come, and we had to really talk her out of it, because she said, then she finally said it's just too dangerous to cross 60 with.
She decided not to come because of the dangers of post-hurricane.
With downed trees and all kinds of hazards to deal with, to travel from Tampa to Vero Beach, she decided against it. She has 3 young children. She was going to bring her 7-year-old. So she is rescheduled for October the 28th. I don't think you're going to want to miss that one. That's our last meeting before the break in November, but then we have our Christmas event as well. So that's October 28th, the last Friday. She will be here, and she has incredible data on how many babies actually were saved because of this Dobbs decision. She has up to the minute data, and I'm sure you're going to want to be here for it. So with that, enjoy your meal, and I'll be introducing our candidates for life, should I say, your candidates for a hospital position that are coming up. The voting is in November. I hope you have your meals first, though. I don't want to put you up here before you eat. Okay, so go ahead and have your meals, and I'll do the introduction when you're finished. You're going to be allowed 10 minutes each, so we have a little more wiggle room on our schedule because Kimberly's not here, so we're going to have about 10 minutes each for each candidate and see how they stand on life.
Paul, we can just get started.
Yeah, we can get started.
Yeah.
You don't want to eat? All right. Okay. Okay, we have, I'll introduce you all of you. You have seats right up here, and I'll give you back this microphone, so they have 3 microphones. So Mr. Paul Westcott is known to many of you. He is a graduate of Florida Southern College. I think that's in Lakeland, Florida. He attended law school and he's got his law degree from Stetson, very fine school. He's published in many of the legal journals, professional journals, and he is a Florida Supreme Court certified as a court mediator. So welcome, Paul. Yeah, we're going to put you on number first. And the second, and he's on district. His position that he's running for is on C4, District C4. We have Dr. Igor Khromov.
C2. C2 for Igor.
Yeah, I got that.
Oh,
yeah, Igor is C2, Paul is C4. Igor C2, he's Dr. Khromov. He's a physiatrist by profession. That's a physical rehabilitation specialist. And he graduated from one of the Ivy League schools, Cornell University, and he also attended medical school at Cornell University. I believe he did his residency at Sloan Catering, is that right?
Well, New York Presbyterian Hospital.
New York Presbyterian Hospital.
Is part of it, and the Hospital for Specialists.
Okay, very good. And he's running, as we said, for C2. So welcome, Dr. Khromov, and we have, gotta pronounce your name right here. It's Jad, is that right? Jad, okay. I've got, Jad says he's a Christian, and he's running for C7. I'm going to pull up his bio. I just got it. And let you know a little bit about Jad. Jad is a man of Christian faith and a strong believer in pro-life policy. He has his degree in industrial engineering from the University of Central Florida, has found a unique application of this discipline working as a healthcare administrator and entrepreneur. He has founded 2 successful healthcare companies, one being a small vascular surgery medical group and the other a healthcare administration consulting company with a focus in data analytics. He believes that his professional background is a key component that is needed on the Indian River Hospital District, and he's passionate in ensuring that the board makes decisions in the interest guiding our community towards the sanctity of life. Outside of work, Jad enjoys spending quality time with his wife, Lindsay, going on runs, serving in the children's ministry at this church, and coaching youth flag football. So welcome to all 3 candidates, and we'll just kick it off with Mr. Paul Westcott.
Thank you. Is it on?
It's on.
Okay, I can't hear me, but you can. Good. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to be here this afternoon. You all are really the soul of our local party, and there's no doubt about it, and our community for that that measure. I'm here today with my wonderful wife and helpmate, Kimberly. She and I have been living in Indian River County since 93. We were married in 91. We raised our 3 children here. I grew up in Satellite Beach. I'd like to share a little bit about who I am to some degree, so that I think that may be reflective of what you might get. I grew up, my father is a retired master sergeant. Both of my parents are living, actively involved in receiving medical support, family support, and that has influenced me. But more importantly, growing up, what influenced me is watching my parents. My mother was an elementary teacher, worked a full day at school, came home, took care of us, and graded papers, and was committed to our family. Very supportive nuclear family. My father retired from the Air Force and as a master sergeant at a time when the Apollo program had phased out. The shuttle program had not yet started. So in my early middle school years, I watched my dad work toward bettering himself and supporting the family in really a remarkable way. He worked at, I'm going to get choked up. He worked at getting his associate's degree. He did not, when he went into the Air Force, he did not have his high school diploma. Education was important in our household. Work and commitment was important, a commitment to family. My dad worked in the lumber yard while going to college, waiting for our economy to, quite frankly, to turn around. And then I got to watch him in a second full career working on the space shuttle. With merit. One year he was, for the entire corporation that he was working for, honored very greatly as the quality control worker for the nation, actually for the world, for that particular company. So I have very good role models to follow in terms of commitment to family, to community, and to work, and I have been a good and hard worker in my career. How do I function? How do I operate? I think that's important for you all to know. I think anybody in leadership, elected office, should and should frequently visit Solomon's prayer. As you may recall, Solomon was a young king, and when given the opportunity to pray, rather than praying for riches and power and glory, he prayed for what? Wisdom and discernment to lead this great people. That's service. That's commitment. Okay, that has always resonated with me since I discovered that passage in Scripture. So I'm going to be community-minded. I'm going to be focusing on what is the best for our community. And to that, I'll go ahead and transition. Winston Churchill has a quote. Before I state the word, how many here on an occasional Saturday afternoon will arrange your schedule to watch a football game? Or maybe on a Sunday, okay? You're a fan. You're a fanatic. That word has negative connotations to some degree in our culture, but I started the way that I did on purpose because it isn't necessarily negative. Winston Churchill said, "A fanatic is one who can't change his mind and won't change the subject." Okay? I think that's important in our governance these days, is that truth is truth. It's universal. And plan A should be plan A in terms of our direction and our decision making. And focus matters. So my background, I'm a lawyer. Recently, as of almost 8 years ago, I stopped the active practice. I ran a very successful statewide firm. Very little turnover. I love the people that worked for me, and they were happy to show up. And I noted that, and I took care to protect that. But 8 years ago, I left that practice, and I'm a full-time mediator. What does that bring to the table? Because I'm going to get into some minutia, if you will, about the hospital district and so forth, that I think having that understanding about me is going to be helpful. And my specialty, the kinds of cases I handled, you had to have a long-term strategy, and you had to have focus, and you had to be flexible in terms of changing your strategy. I won't get into the nuts and bolts of that too much more. As a mediator, I have to have the ability to help two people understand very differing perspectives and help them find ways to solve those problems, okay? So when I approach solving problems and when I approach handling my cases, I found frequently that it's more helpful if you help the people understand their options and choices. You have them make those choices while understanding the consequences of those choices. Okay, so right now we are, first of all, who knows what a hospital district is or does? Okay, for those on the viewing audience, about 3 people raise their hands. I think that's helpful to know first off because I think it defines the job. Hospital districts came into being about 100 years ago. Ours was started in 1959. They were created because local communities like ours needed a hospital but probably did not have the financial means through patient base and so forth to support the operation of the hospital. So taxing districts were created in order to direct property tax revenue to the support of the hospital and more specifically to improve indigent care. Our district was formed in 1959. As I see it, the umbrella issue, when you read this, there's a special act right here. I'm a lawyer, so I'd like to look at this stuff, that defines the job of the hospital district. The umbrella job is to, generally speaking, enhance the level and quality of medical care for our community. The subsets of that, operation of a hospital and providing for indigent care. In 2018, we signed a lease. We gave the keys to the castle to Cleveland Clinic and said, you run the hospital for us. Well, our district, unfortunately, has checked the box where the operation of the hospital is concerned. A year ago, there was a speaker on behalf of the district at the Taxpayers Association who was asked, is the staffing problem that we're seeing in the papers true? Yes. What are you going to do about it? The answer was, we have contracted away our responsibility to be involved in the day-to-day operations of the hospital, so we're not planning to do anything. Okay? That's not what the statute says. The statute says that the district is responsible for the staffing at the hospital. Okay? I would submit that's an inappropriate, potentially unlawful delegation of responsibility. Okay, that needs to be explored, and how do we bring that back, and how we get oversight again. On the issue of the vaccine mandate, the similar question was asked. Cleveland Clinic seems to be forcing that. Isn't it going to be problematic for the district, for the hospital operation? Got the same response. I represented pro bono about 150 of those hospital workers navigating the request for exemptions. Roughly 37%, as I understand, requested exemptions. There was a layering of pressure on Cleveland Clinic. They started out pretty aggressively in pushing for these exemptions. Is that a community hospital that has community in mind when roughly 37% of our hospital workers might have been displaced? Fortunately, they yielded. But the difficulty for our hospital is it's not operating like a community hospital. And what does that mean to be a community hospital where I'm concerned? I see it express itself in 3 areas. First, patient satisfaction. Based on what you're hearing in the community, your neighbors, friends, family, yourself, if you had to rate patient satisfaction from Cleveland Clinic and our hospital, where would that be? Thumbs down I see out there. My opponent would tell you that we're doing well. My opponent would tell you that because CMS has given them 4 stars instead of 2 stars, it's okay. I am more interested in what you all think and what you all desire from our hospital than a federal bureaucracy, okay? I think you guys are first, and it's our responsibility as local elected officials to see to that. So number one, patient satisfaction. We need to explore why patient satisfaction is a problem. Number two, employee morale. I'm hearing, because I'm connected with these folks, I'm hearing hating going into work, looking forward to their breaks, looking forward to getting off. And these are people that love their work, okay? No mistake about it. These people are quality people that love what they're doing and are passionate about it. And they feel that way about coming to work. We have staffing shortages, which is probably an expression of other problems. That needs to be explored, not ignored, okay? Number three, who here has either personally experienced an independent physician no longer being available for whatever reason, or at least have been told of a friend by a friend or family? I've been hearing that a great deal, that we've had a number of physicians, independents, that have left the community, have retired. We need to explore why that is. We need to make available other choices. And this is, I was told by a physician last week that right now we have no neurologists at the hospital. We have 6 or 7 in the local community. If you were being seen at Cleveland Clinic and you needed a neurologic referral, what list of names would you be given? Nobody local. You would be given the address to their facility in Weston and told to go there. Weston, Florida. Is that supporting our community? Is that demonstrating a relationship of supporting our local physicians? No. So that needs to be explored, and we need to figure out how the hospital can better support our independent physicians so that we don't lose them, because choice matters. Why does choice matter? I said, well, we have a big institution. Well, it matters to you all because you want to have a relationship with a personal physician that you trust and know, that's going to spend more than 6 or 7 minutes with you. Okay? So these things need to be explored. I think the district bears that responsibility in elevating the quality of medical care in our community and needs to work with Cleveland Clinic. Well, how do we do that? They've got a 75-year lease. They've been given the keys to the castle for 75 years. You know what their rent is? To the extent they determine the rate of payment providing indigent care. If you were to read the language in the rent provision of this lease, you would be shocked, because at their discretion, they get to determine the level of indigent care they provide. There's a floor based on the statute, but they get to determine it. Who here has ever been able to write a lease where you were the tenant, where you got to tell your landlord what your lease is? That's ridiculous, okay? This is not a district that has been focused on taking care of our community beyond the other box that they have. The other box is spending the tax dollars supporting indigents. So have I gone over my 10 minutes? Sorry about that.
Well, I'm Dr. Igor Khromov. I'm totally coming from a different angle. I'm a physician. I'm a small business owner. I've never done any political, any kind of running for anything political. My business is sports, spine, and pain medicine. I'm a rehabilitation medicine doctor, and I'm running for seat 2 for the Indian River Hospital District. So just wanted to let you know that us 3, we're all running for different seats. We're running not against each other, but if all of us get on, we can, there's 7 seats. So if the more of us get on, the more conservatives can make an impact. Now I wanted to also mention that we are all conservatives, so I'm not here to preach to the choir. I mean, obviously we are clearly pro-life, and we're not gonna fund anything like a Planned Parenthood or anything. Programs we're gonna fund are gonna be more for conservative reasons. I'm in Indian River County for over 20 years, moved here in 2002. I did my residency a year before in New York. I completed residency at the New York Hospital, Cornell, which was also part of the Hospital for Special Surgery. and Sloan Kettering. These were all across the street from each other. There was an underground tunnel, so all the staff, when needed, were able to just go there regarding if there's a hurricane, a snowstorm, rainstorm. We all lived, actually, the staff was subsidized in housing across the street from these hospitals. So this underground tunnel was very accessible, and there was no excuse for us not to come. So they definitely weren't understaffed, and they're a world-class institution because of that. Now, in 2002, when I moved down to Vero, I met my friend Paul Zelno, who's the president of this club. And at that time, he was actually the first pharmaceutical representative that I met when I came down. He was representing a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory called Celebrex at the time. And shortly after I met him, he actually invited me to go play golf with him, which was kind of interesting because in Manhattan, I didn't really have much opportunity as a resident to play golf. And I wasn't really good. I was terrible at it. Every ball went into the water or in sand. But he encouraged me. He didn't laugh at me or anything, and he told me how else am I going to learn to play. So I was very grateful, even though I slowed everybody down. And then later I became medical director of the. There was a comprehensive outpatient rehab facility, which I was there for about 3 months, and then they declared bankruptcy. I was in exchange. I was paying them rent in exchange to be a medical director, but they owed the IRS 75 grand in back taxes, so they foreclosed, and I no longer had an office. So I had to basically do home visits where I had over 100 patients that I had to follow up with, and I was like a little house on the prairie. So I was going, and also I started working in nursing homes at that time, the 3 nursing homes around the hospital on 37th. So I was attending and doing consults at the nursing homes. And then my first actual office I got in 2003 at the Jungle Club. It's a gym that changed its name. It's Vero Fitness now. And over there I also worked out with Paul Zelno. And then this was until 2004. And 2004 was another event that actually happened that very similar to what we had now. There was a hurricane around exactly the same time. There was 2. There was Jean, and then Francis came about 2 weeks apart. We lost power for over 2 weeks. And my grandfather, he was on oxygen. So the oxygen machine obviously couldn't be powered because we lost electricity. The emergency medical services, they were trying to bring us tanks of oxygen, but there was a lot of debris, they couldn't come. So eventually we had to get my grandfather to Sebastian. They had a shelter, but eventually he passed away there. So that was a terrible experience from 2004, right around the same time as this hurricane. Also around that time, the roof collapsed at the Jungle Club where I had the office, and all kinds of rain came through. It damaged computers, equipment. My charts were flooded. And then, of course, I made an itemized list to the Jungle Club. They collected from the insurance company, but then when I asked them, what about me, they told me that I needed to get renter's insurance. I didn't even know what that was at that time. So after that, I worked with some chiropractic offices. I still continued doing some home visits because I didn't have an office. And then I finally, in 2005, I have the current office that I have now since 2005 in 38th Avenue. Also, I became medical director of Palm Garden for a while afterwards. And then in 2012, I started teaching Florida State University medical students. I'm an associate clinical professor currently there. I just got an award for doing it over a decade, 10 years. And there I teach 3rd and 4th year medical students for their clinical rotations. They come to my office. Sometimes I even do a talk over there. Even though they're out of Tallahassee, there's a regional campus in Fort Pierce. A lot of people don't know that for the 3rd and 4th years. And I grade them, I evaluate them. Unfortunately, in the most recent times, their performance is actually pretty much declining. Maybe it's because of the COVID and the Zoom. All the Zoom learning is not really good for medical students, probably like most students. So currently I'm running basically to improve the medical programs in the Cleveland Clinic as best as we can. Of course, the more of us on there, the better. We'd have more influence. I decided to run because, like Paul said, there's really bad reputation. If you Google the Cleveland Clinic, it's a 2.3 out of 5 rating on Google. There's understaffing, a lot of people left. I was talking to Catherine Booth, she was also at the Cleveland Clinic. She left because they're having problems, policy issues. And I'm trying to improve their ratings, improve the patient, doctor, and all kinds of staff relations with the nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, because I worked alongside all of them throughout my career. I know how these medical programs run, how the ins and outs of it. I even, of course, I run my practice, so I know about billing and the collections, and I'm not interested in being wasteful with taxpayer money. So I'm trying to make sure that it's going to be used as efficiently as possible. And like I said, I just want, if you guys, obviously we're all on the same team, so we need a red wave. We need you all to vote for not just obviously Rubio or DeSantis, but like the smaller guys, the local elections. So please vote for us. We're seat 2, seat 4, seat 7. Thank you.
Is this on?
Yes.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. You're probably digesting your food right now, so hopefully no one's nodding off while I'm talking, but maybe take a sip of your sweet tea or some coffee, and hopefully you can bear with me. So the way I see it, the topic of conversation has 4 parts, really. One is my personal and professional background and speaking on that. And that also includes, of course, my moralistic viewpoints and my faith. The next is healthcare as a general industry, as an environment, and the different issues that come with that, not just locally, but in this nation and also globally. But more focused, my understanding is more focused on healthcare within this country. And then the next would be, of course, the hospital district locally and the issues that are pertinent to that and pertinent to this specific community, because we do have a unique community in terms of a lot of different demographics and the presence of healthcare resources within the county. And then the last, of course, and the one that is most appropriate for this group is stance on pro-life topics and pro-life issues. And just some thoughts and concerns that I personally have and that have come through my mind throughout this campaign and just in life in general. And so I might touch on these topics kind of, it's not necessarily going to be in any sort of order, so they might come up. But, the first thing, I guess I'll say the last first, regarding the pro-life issues. As we know, there are abortions that occur within our county, and there's statistics that show us how many do happen within Indian River County on an annual basis. And if you look at the statistics statewide, we know that the vast majority of abortions occur for elective reasons. And really, it becomes slimmer and slimmer as you get towards some of the more intense situations, whether it be sexual assault, incest, and it pretty much funnels down. The more I would say the more intense the situation, the less frequent an abortion occurs for that. Some people will get it because they feel like they're in a poor socioeconomic situation. That's probably the second category after the elective abortion. And so it's really important that we remember that, of course, when we're advocating for abortion issues, because oftentimes people who are advocating for abortions will use these very infrequent occurrences of abortion as a justification for any abortion. And of course, I believe in pro-life without exception. I believe in life beginning at conception. And so I think it's important that we're firm in our our viewpoint on this. And of course, when we talk about these more delicate situations, it's definitely it's a soft topic. We can't be forceful. We have to speak the truth, like Paul was saying. Truth is truth, but of course in love. And so, another thing that Paul alluded to was, when we're talking about certain issues, it wasn't necessarily about abortion, I don't think, but basically that, you have to discuss your options, right? And so that's something that we want to be present within our community. We want people to feel comfortable in terms of knowing that life is the better choice. And of course, with all the things going on at a statewide level and beyond, a lot of things like that, we have to pray, of course, in terms of making sure that the higher powers make the right decisions. But so long as abortion is available from a legal perspective, there's always the opportunity to fund or support resources that educate people, in terms of avoiding making that decision for themselves. And so as it pertains, not going into the hospital district a little bit, and some of the things that might kind of, touch the abortion space, we have Cleveland Clinic that has a women's health center. And so as a community hospital, one of their functions is, of course, the OBGYN and, making sure that, people are able to go there to deliver children. And I believe it was a couple months ago where we saw some correspondence come from Cleveland Clinic regarding their agenda that seems to support abortion. And so my concern isn't necessarily that there's things going on right now, but it's what could come, potentially. And so that being said, I want to reemphasize what Igor was saying about having a panel of representatives that are pro-life on this board, because, again, it's not about the status quo. It's about what could come, what could they push within our county. And so we want the right people within the right place in order to make sure that we're fighting back and we're standing up for the rights that we believe in. And so that kind of segues me to me personally and my faith. My faith is the basis of my beliefs. I, as Paul said in my bio, I'm a man of Christian faith, and I think that life is sacred. I think it's a blessing from God. I won't shy away from saying that. And so, with that being said, it's obviously heartbreaking, to see people have a different viewpoint on unborn children, because it's they kind of treat it as almost like a commodity, like they can just get rid of them, and it's upsetting, and it's definitely something that I feel deeply. And with that being said, I recognize that the stance that I have, I wouldn't have if it wasn't for it's not just my belief, but what happened in my life that changed my mind. And going a little bit more into my personal background, I went to a secular university. I'm a younger person, and so to everyone's point in terms of getting the youth involved, it's very important, because culture pushes to younger people that abortion is okay. And as someone that didn't know neither here nor there, growing up, I just saw that it was ever present and all around me. And so, just not having much of an opinion, I thought, well, if everyone's doing it, what's the big deal? However, of course, when I came to my faith and I started thinking about things, and the truth was revealed, I saw more and more about how it's a negative thing. And oh wow, has it been 8 minutes already? Well, anyway, so I'm sure you guys get the sense of where I stand on the issue, and I think it's appropriate that I've talked mostly about it. And regarding the hospital district and what I'll bring to the table, I work in healthcare administration. My dad is a vascular surgeon. I helped him go independent from a corporate health system up in Sebastian. And he was dealing with a lot of the same things that we hear physicians dealing with within the Cleveland Clinic. And his practice is now, it's very successful. And we did it with him being on his own. And so the experience that I got from that, I want to bring to the table in terms of working with our community partners like Treasure Coast Community Health, like Whole Family Health Center, to make sure that they are successful operationally and financially on their own. Because we shouldn't forget, healthcare can make money, right? It's not the goal of healthcare, but it is a potential secondary outcome if it's done properly. And so in doing so, it will actually reduce the need for subsidy from the tax district, which would lead us to in a more financially conservative direction. And so the hospital district is responsible for the healthcare outcomes of the community, not only within the hospital, but also in the outpatient setting as well. And as a matter of fact, with Cleveland running the hospital and with this lease that is very restrictive towards the hospital district and kind of opens the door towards Cleveland, it would be like kind of banging our heads against a brick wall if we're focusing on Cleveland and not seeing the whole field of opportunity that's outside of Cleveland, which is the outpatient care and the other potential partners within the community, and making sure that it doesn't take you 6 weeks to 2 months to get an appointment with your primary care physician, or multiple months to get an ultrasound or an x-ray. And I wish I did have more time, but the moral of the story is this: healthcare within this community is very important. We have a very high senior citizen population, and we need to focus on this issue, because with the lack of access to care, we are delayed, and it decreases the quality of life for the people within our county. So please pay attention to this issue, and hopefully we can talk some more about it with some questions, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, all three. Excellent education in terms of hospital candidates and what they do. So often we don't know what certain seats and how they affect our lives here locally. And this is the purpose of this particular forum, to inform you, to educate you, so you can make the decision that your candidate makes his decision based on his knowledge, his information, and his position and his values that affect our life. They all do. All these offices are very important, and most of you are leaders in your own community. So when your friends ask you about hospital candidates, you probably learn more today than they'll ever learn. You know which way you want to go. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Questions for our candidates? Yes. Okay, Tom.
Chet, could you speak more to the outpatient and the ideas that you were going to go on until you ran out of time?
Thank you so much. So Thomas was asking about the outpatient care, and I'm very glad that he asked this question, because it's probably the most pertinent issue within our community. And there's just so many thoughts I had about it, especially when the other candidates with me here were talking about, for example, the hurricanes, right? There's hurricanes, there's our COVID pandemic, right? And these are potential situations that can create a surge in terms of acute care on our hospital. Our hospital needs to have resources available to tend to acute care. It should not be the place to go if someone has like a random ache or a pain, or are experiencing some sort of issue that could potentially be detected or prevented while regularly visiting a primary care physician. So the way that, and this isn't only like a clinical quality issue, it's also a financial issue, because when you visit the hospital, your bill is going to be astronomically larger than when you visit your primary care physician within his or her office, okay? And that's also true for the cost on the facility, right? So when we're talking about working with the hospital, when they have people that are when they have to allocate emergency resources towards issues that could be prevented in the primary care setting, okay, that also puts a financial burden on them. So the biggest goal would be to, and we have independent physicians within the community that unfortunately their ties have been severed with the hospital currently. There's physicians that we can recruit from outside of our community to this amazing county that we have that has been such a blessing throughout these times. And we need to focus on the data and the statistics, because 35% of our population is senior citizen. And I'm sorry if that's a soft topic, but we do have a high senior citizen population. And so with that, statistically, comes increased need to attend to chronic conditions. And so in order to solve that, we have to increase the presence of primary care providers within our county, because the truth of the matter is that even though we have a high senior citizen population, we actually fall below the statewide average. And so we actually need 25 primary care providers within our county just to meet the statewide average, given the fact that our senior citizen population is 150% more than the statewide average. Therefore, we don't just want to meet the average, we need to exceed it in order to make sure that we have access to outpatient care.
And it's noteworthy, also on the topic, when the lease, I don't know, well, I'm going to say something probably, this lease is just awful, is all I can tell you. I won't, there's a non-compete in this lease. In other words, the hospital district, in certain areas, if the hospital district felt there was a need that needed to be filled and decided strategically to engage in an outside provider because Cleveland Clinic says, no, we don't want to do that, okay? The district would violate this lease by engaging somebody in that manner, okay? So if there's an area of need, and there are areas of need in our community, we first have to go to Cleveland Clinic and say, Mother, may I? Mother, may I? And if they say no, well, okay, we can't. That's not a district that's taking care of our community, and it needs to be fixed. And there are ways that it can be fixed. You start out by asking and coordinating and cooperating, and then there are consequences if the answer to that is no. And you escalate from there. I won't trouble you with the details of that, but you can take it from there. Karen?
Paul, you may have said this earlier, but when is the lease up?
75 years from 2018.
But tell them the details of that.
And there are 3 renewal provisions that Cleveland Clinic, okay, after the first term is 30 years, and then there are renewals after that of 15-year increments. Cleveland Clinic is the sole party that gets to decide whether or not the lease extends, okay? So the district is not involved in that decision. Now, ordinarily, a normal commercial lease, you might think that would be the landlord gets to control who stays and so forth. But this is a special relationship where if it ain't working out, we're still stuck, or we got to send lawyers, and that's the lease we got.
Who negotiated this lease? Are they still around?
Yeah, did they run the fire office?
Well, my board, okay, my opponent is Alan Jones. Seems like a nice fella. I've not met him socially, personally. There was an interview for the TC Palm endorsement considerations, and he seemed very connected to this, and I will use the word proud of it, as well as reasonably satisfied with the relationship and the level of service that we're getting, okay? Again, so that it isn't alarmist, there's a whole lot between fixing the problem and ending the relationship. And I don't want anybody to go away, or anybody that's going to watch and say, Westcott wants to destroy the relationship. I want to make it better. And there are consequences if the other side doesn't want to make it better.
How do you end a relationship when you have contracts? And why would you want to do that? I was not particularly happy about Indian River Hospital being sold and moving into Cleveland Clinic. Personally, I don't have a problem at all at this point, but I am taking care of an Alzheimer's patient that is on Medicaid, and I have been taking him to this hospital for 3 or 4, 5 years. And although it's not perfect, there's a tremendous responsibility for a new entity to come into town to take over what we had, because we were so engrossed in Indian River Memorial Center. We were so engrossed, and it's hard to make a change. Things have turned around as far as I'm concerned. The adjustments were not easy with some of the physicians, but they're coming around. It's a matter of learning and picking up the pieces. They are experienced. This is a tremendous facility that has come into town. So it's not easy, but I would hope that you all would work so that it isn't controversial, that it isn't a fight, because I am tired of the fights. We are on a national battle to start with, and we don't need it locally.
Rosemary, you make a very good point, and that's why I started with what I did early in my discussion, which is it's about choices and options. Cleveland Clinic, I would hope, would want to have a better reputation and provide a better level of
Can't help but
service.
think that they wouldn't.
I would think that they would want to have better relationships with their employees and have better morale. I would think that they would want to work better with their local doctors. So with that level of optimism is how I go into it, okay, personally. I can speak for me. But they also need to understand that they do have a responsibility to respond appropriately. And I'm not going to be Pollyannish about the possibility that they're not going to respond appropriately, and it may involve some work, okay? And exploring what the issue is, focusing on what the issue and finding ways to solve the problem, and moving forward in that way. If the response is, we're Cleveland, we know what we're doing, and we're going to let Cleveland make the decisions for us, and we're auguring in, and irrespective of all evidence to the contrary, that's a problem. I'm hoping we don't get that. I don't want that. Their local Health First is locally owned. They do very well in their local community. So I don't want to dominate.
Can I respond to the question too, just briefly? I personally don't feel that it's necessary to make everything a fight. And in terms of the non-compete, there's actually specific specialties that are highlighted, and the district actually partners currently with primary care providers, and so that's why I'm focused. That to me is the lowest hanging fruit, because again, healthcare is a difficult scene. It's not necessarily pointing fingers at any specific person. I mean, our system is challenging. The challenges that we face because of the health issues within our community and our country puts a strain on the healthcare system. And so that's why I'm bringing to the table these statistics and the data that's saying you can prevent the surge on the hospitals by focusing on the primary care. And the hospital district is not currently restrained in partnering with more primary care partners, because if that were the case, they wouldn't be partnered with Treasure Coast Community Health or Whole Family Health Center, who are primary care. And I just wanted to clarify that that part is not specifically in the lease, and it's an amazing place to focus on to make the system as a whole better.
This one's actually for Jod. So, because I know Jod from talking about Careflow, it's a really great business you started, and I am looking forward to seeing that flourish. Because when I was talking actually about the hospital thing, I remember you mentioned that surprisingly for Igor, that you found that Igor can get more patients up in Sebastian. Would you be able to talk about how you do that for physicians with your business?
Yeah, and sorry, Paul, do we have any restriction on these answers, these questions, or?
No, what I would say, keep it focused. Yeah, you can answer his question, but I would say that I think our candidates will be available after we adjourn. If you have any questions for them afterwards, I know they'd be more than welcome to talk with you.
What was your question?
So I'll repeat his question. I'll repeat the question that Ryan brought up, and he's referencing one of my companies and the approach that I'm referring to in terms of data analytics to look at our community and see what needs are necessary. And so, you know, for example, in the pain management specialty, you know, we have a huge need, specifically if you look within Sebastian, if you compare and contrast the population data to the availability of providers, there are some big players up there, but by sheer volume of people, senior citizen population that are up there, and using local statistics and statewide statistics, you know, there's a large percentage of people that are experiencing pain that aren't able to be seen by, you know, a provider in a timely manner, and so of course that has a negative effect on their quality of life. And as we know, some of the players in the game, they're from the anesthesiology background, so their solution is, you know, using prescriptions to help them manage their pain, whereas someone like Dr. Khromov, he's a physiatrist, he uses methods that are more of the physical rehabilitation, and so that would kind of help us, you know, in the opioid situation too, making sure that people don't get addicted to pain medications. You know, it would be a great way to fill a need there. And, you know, to Ryan's point, it's something that we can work on the hospital district, or we can work on using our own expertise outside of the hospital district at the same time. So we're trying to attack this from multiple angles.
I was going to ask about indigent care. You said there was a bottom minimum level. Is it adequate, or how big is indigent care in the county?
There's a statute on the books that sets the minimum standard. The difficulty with the way the contract is written is Cleveland Clinic gets to decide. It's tied to a statute, and Cleveland gets, as opposed to pinpointing, this is what we want in the way of indigent care. It's subject to this floor, and it's a very complicated statute that I could spend quite a bit of time talking about, which I don't think you want me to do. But would it be adequate? Potentially, but again, we've given them the keys to an operation in the hospital. We've allowed them to compete in very aggressive ways with our independent doctors. And again, so you know, I understand Rosemary's concern and point that this is not about kicking them out. It's not about firing them. It's about, while we're still in this developmental phase, fixing it while we can before it becomes more entrenched.
I think it sounds great that you are a long-time mediator.
Thank
you. I just want to, you know, you didn't necessarily need to answer this, but I don't know if the board, you know, if your community district thing has the ability to deal with. I've seen this in many cases. The two things, and you brought it up, and I just want to reinforce what you're saying is I've seen too many people having difficulties, and family members and friends and things getting in to see doctors timely, and this has become worse and worse over the last year, I'd say, or two. So I think that's a problem. I think that I don't know how you guys can work on doing that and handling that. And the second part I'd like to say is also, I believe that again this has more to do with when someone's in the hospital, and because I've again experienced firsthand, and also have had experience with friends that have called me and have been in the hospital, that some of these doctors, their patient relationship is not very good, and they're assuming things. Two of them that I know of were being told, like, up front, you need to be in hospice. Neither one of them need to be in hospice. Okay, and it's like they don't know the patient, and yet they're making these observations quickly, and gearing them in the wrong direction. And if you don't have anybody standing there watching over you as an advocate and helping you, you know, you can be led in the wrong path. And so I think that's another aspect. The last thing, I know a priest friend down in Del Rey who teaches University of Miami students as part of their, I guess, curriculum or whatever, how to deal with patients. And so I don't know if there's anything that goes on with continuing ed or seminars or anything that can be done, you know, with those that are currently in the hospitals that are probably off base on, you know, where they're leading the patients.
Well, I would start by, the problem is definitely understaffing and dissatisfaction of physicians and practitioners, and a lot of them left. A good start would definitely be reimbursing them more, giving them more incentives. There's policies in place that, for example, there was vaccine mandates that some doctors left because of. So a lot of the policies that are in place need to be changed, and having some money that we can hold back or not distribute to them would definitely be some sort of an influence, I believe, compared to none at all. So I think that would help. Getting patients to get proper care would be, as far as, you know, the relationship between doctors and patients declined even when doctors were, for example, independent before they joined. They had high reviews, high ratings, and I know a good amount of doctors, when they join, they get pressured that their ratings quickly decline, if you look at Google. And then some of them even left afterwards. So all of that is definitely what you're discussing, but that would be addressed, you know, given enough of us are on the panel, we can allocate these funds in the appropriate way to make that change happen.
Anybody has any more questions for our panel, I'm sure they'll be able to answer them after I adjourn. And I just want to thank each and every one of them for a real education on this candidacy for hospital. It's important to make clear that they're not competing against one another. They have separate districts, and they have opponents that will be competing against them. So you know that they're pro-life, I mean, by their own declaration, but deeper than that, they've got a lot of great ideas to keep quality health care here in Indian River County. So thank you. All right, so yeah, you can answer any questions you have for them. Wait till we adjourn. We have other things we need to do. I may have to make one important message here from Miss Bonnie at CareNet. She has Kaylee McEnany, the press secretary for Donald Trump, is coming to town on November 12th. So I'm sure Bonnie can answer any questions they have for that at the IG Center. IG Center, right, Bonnie? November 12th. And I want to shout out to our IT special IT man, Mr. Thomas Kenny. So I was going to put a Mac in front of that, but that was not right. Anytime we need him, like he's like the 9/11 IT guy. So I make a motion that we adjourn. Anybody want to make a second on that?
I'll second it, but we still have.
Yeah, we have to first adjourn, and then Connie has some door prizes for us. Okay, so second the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.